to
was
know,
more the
man.
baseball coach too. I was impressed that you coached baseball as well, Ben. I was like, oh, good.
Yeah, and
Can talk
that's
about.
I'd say it. Some weeks, honestly, man, I feel like I coach more baseball than I do tennis these days. I've got an 11-year-old son that plays both in a rec league and on a travel ball team, throughout the year, and I coach both those teams. And like you, man, when those seasons peak, I'm on the road a lot, and spending weekends at ball fields, but it's a lot of fun.
It is. I played all through, and it's funny. We're driving right past Warner Robins right now. My buddy's son played on that Warner Robins team that went to the Little League World Series Finals a few years back.
Oh,
He's
that was what's his name's kid? That was
Fralick, Jonathan
Fralick's
Fralick.
kid. Yeah.
Yes,
He's playing. No, he's playing at Auburn now. He's a catcher at Auburn.
Well, he's signed. He's still only a junior.
Okay. Sorry, I thought he was a senior.
No, he's got one more year. I think they're waiting to see whether or not he gets drafted because he also won. I think he came in third in doubles in Kalamazoo.
Yeah,
and won down in Florida. He's a great tennis player as well. So I think, but he is a left-handed hitting catcher. So those, they get signed for a decent amount of money.
That's money to be made right there, man. Yeah, you can.
He has phenomenal hands.
I tell parents that all the time. They ask, they're like, I think he can kind of use both hands. I'm like, all right, he's a lefty. Like, done. No question. Don't argue with me. Lefty.
If your kid can bat left-handed and throw right-handed, sign him up for baseball.
Absolutely.
Or her up for baseball. I'm full on left-handed. Can barely drink a cup of coffee with my right hand, but my kids are both right-handed, but interestingly bat left-handed. I don't know if it's because they copied me in a demonstration when they were young. I showed them how to bat and I was standing left-handed and they just kind of copied or what, but they both throw right and bat left. And I swear to people, I didn't make them do that. It just, they picked the bat up. They saw me swing a couple times. They mimicked it and off they went. But
I was a much better hitter lefty than I was righty. Strong hand on the bottom.
How's your backhand?
Believe it or not, I separated my left shoulder. My two-handed backhand was gone. I hit a one-handed backhand. So it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, my son's backhand is better than his forehand.
Yeah, it's like, you don't get it down here, but most hockey players are left-handed and most people are right-handed. It's just they play hockey left-handed.
I don't know anything about hockey. Is that? I guess that would be like a two-handed backhand, wouldn't it? Rather than that strong hand on the bottom.
Right. Yes.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
That makes sense. And I didn't spend much time baseball, but that really goes to show how much, even if your kid is right-handed, I'll mention this to parents all the time because Ben, we work almost exclusively with beginner children. So we get those beginner parents and they ask the righty versus lefty question. I said, even if you just want to make him a lefty, it's not that different when he's 4. No. How long it's going to take him to figure it out. It's the same thing. So unless it's just he keeps grabbing the racket, fine, give in. But if you're, and I think we're all in agreement with this idea. I would tell parents all the time, it's an inherent 10% advantage in tennis across the board if you're a lefty. And parents look at me, they're like, how is that? I said, look, if I'm playing against myself, all things being actually equal, and my other self is left-handed, I lose that match every time. I'm like, that's just that little bit of difference, that little bit of advantage. And as Ben, you were saying, your kids are righties, but teach them young enough to swing left-handed, no problem.
Yeah, I can, off the top of my head, I can probably think of 4 or 5 kids in my program right now that are young, and they hit forehands on both sides. They just, as much as we teach them a backhand, when that ball comes to the left side, they just switch hands and boom. I mean, it's just, and just let them go. I mean, they're doing fine with it. I mean, they're only, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, and their technique's going to change 2 or 3 times before they get to what they're going to settle into at 13, 14 years old anyway.
Yeah.
Assuming they even become tennis players. So, all right, I need to get to know Ben, and I needed to get to know what you're doing now. Because, like I said, I knew you, gosh, that had to be almost 20 years ago now.
Wow,
And,
it's crazy.
all right, we'll call it 15 years ago.
I mean,
Great.
I was at Dunwoody 05 to 07. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're bumping right up on that 20-year mark.
Coming to 20, exactly.
Yeah.
So now you're doing Bull Shark Sports. Our question is basically kind of who are you and why do we care? But what is Bull Shark Sport? What are you doing now? What's Ben Hestley doing now?
Yeah. So yeah, I was at Dunwoody Country Club for a couple years. And then I was at Druid Hills Golf Club for 14 as their director of tennis. And then kind of got to where I was like, well, there's got to be something else, right? Like these country club gigs are nice, they're sweet, they're fun, but I've kind of done a lot in it, and being in a club environment for whatever 17 or some odd years, thinking there's got to be something else I can contribute to this sport and to kids in general. I mean, youth sports, junior tennis is my passion. I do coach adults, but the kids are really where it's at for me. And so I have these neighborhoods. And so I was like, this is crazy. And I live in this neighborhood in Sagamore Hills, and Briarcliff Woods Beach Club is our home club. And it's a beautiful 5-court, it's a swim tennis club, but it's 5 courts, swimming pool, a huge field in the back. And I'm thinking, why is there no program going on here? And thought, well, maybe I'm the guy. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. I can create this. And so I did. And so, but we thought about what is it? Like, what's my whole point of doing this? And I've always been an advocate for multi-sports. I've always encouraged kids, even the top tennis players, to play top junior players, to play something else. I don't care if it's a season of basketball in the winter, whatever, play something different. So, you just kind of continue to build that athletic base, because you never know, right? You just never know. So many kids sadly have played tennis for 10 years and they get to be 15, 16 and like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. And there's nothing for them to do anymore. There's nothing for them to fall back on. Right. And we've all heard those sad stories, but so I've always been an advocate for multi-sports. And so, honestly, one night we were trying to figure out, we're going to do this. I'm going to, try to go away from the club business, start my own company. What is this company going to be about? And my son and I were kind of sitting around the dinner table one night, just hacking around business names. I didn't want to do like Ben Hestley Academy or anything like that. I wanted to have something that was kind of unique. And so he's like, what about sharks? He loves sharks. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's look at some sharks that we could think about. Right. And so quickly we came upon the bull shark. And the coolest thing about a bull shark, if you don't know, is that the bull shark can survive and thrive really in freshwater and saltwater. So bull shark actually lives in the ocean, and they live in rivers and lakes. And so we're like, that's perfect. That's like a multi-skilled shark, right? So let's bull shark sports, we're about multi-skilled athletes, multi-sport athletes. So put 2 and 2 together, and bull shark sports was born.
I like that. We talk with kids about naming things all the time and putting time into naming something. And we did the same thing with Tennis for Children, which originally was Ankle Biters Tennis, which was never going to be Sean Boyce Tennis. That just was never going to be the thing. And I like that. You put thought into the name rather than just put your name on it, or, Tennessee tennis, and then move on. And
yeah,
I like that you thought about it as to it's personal, but also it's thoughtful. That's awesome.
Yeah. And people have loved it. They love it. They think it's cool. The kids think it's cool. And then the other thing with the sports name, when it's mainly tennis, I didn't want to be pigeonholed into that. If we were going to branch into something, and then quickly we got into baseball, and then we do sports camps. So our camps in the summer are not just, they're mainly, we call them tennis and sports. So they're mainly tennis camps, but they're, have a lot of other sports involved as well.
So you're the perfect Gotennis partner coach. That's you fit right in to say, hey, look, we do tennis, but we also do all these other things. That was one of the things we did back in the day with Ankle Biters. We turned Ankle Biters Tennis into Ankle Biters Extracurriculars. So you take that name, so you allow it to scale. Okay, Bull Shark Sports, we can do tennis, we can do baseball, we can do some soccer. It allows you to really expand into those camps. And that leads me to that question that says, okay, you're in your one neighborhood. Do you have other neighborhoods? Is this a service you provide that can scale?
Yeah. So right now we're program partner with two neighborhoods. One is Briarcliff Woods Beach Club. And I got that contact because I'm a member there. And then I had people there that wanted to have something like this at their club, at our club. And the other one was Linmore Woods, which was really an untapped market. I kind of was putting some feelers out. And when I started this company back in 2021, and, kind of just, it's the people business, right? We're still in, social media is great. Email marketing is great. Putting your name on a billboard is great, but honestly, it's about who you know and just coming upon. And so I kind of happened upon somebody who in the same position we were looking for. She was the tennis chair at this little 2-court club right across Lawrenceville Highway in Linmore Woods, and looking to start a tennis program. And that nobody had been into that place in probably 20 years. And I'm talking to the point where we got the courts were just. Courts haven't been resurfaced in 20 years. There's cracks everywhere. The courts were so beat down, the hard courts, that if it rained, you couldn't teach for like 3 days. Because that's how long it took to dry out the asphalt. But they got the courts resurfaced, and we got kids coming in there. I go there in season. I go there 2 days a week, and then I go to do stuff at the beach club about 3 days a week. So so those two neighborhoods, and then I also do some private coaching. So people in the area who, the good thing about a lot of these swim and tennis clubs in our area is there's no like contracts. You don't have like a set pro or a set company that runs the facility. So the members can hire whatever coach they want to come in. So I do a lot of private coaching at various neighborhoods for doing it that way.
Yeah, and that's fantastic.
So what part of town is that?
So my neighborhood is Sagamore Hills, in Briarcliff Woods. It's right next to Oak Grove. We're kind of in that La Vista, Claremont, Briarcliff corridor, right off. If you go down 85, see the Claremont Road exit, that's us.
Listen, you're right by beautiful downtown Toco Hills.
That is Toco Hills, yes. That's my hood.
Billy Pate and I used to live right over there in our apartment back in our glory days in beautiful downtown Toco Hills, partying at the famous sports pub. There's a great New York deli right in there too. Oh, good food.
What's that called?
I don't remember, other than it's right in the Toco Hills Kroger. And if you go into the bagel place, it had New York Ranger paraphernalia everywhere. They were diehard Ranger fans. And we were literally there when the Rangers finally won the Stanley Cup, right around 94. So that was in our heyday. So that was a fun place to be when we first got to Atlanta.
And that's okay. So I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at in town. I'm looking at something called Beach Club. Help me out here. You're inside the perimeter in Atlanta, Georgia.
Man, I don't know, man. We
help me out.
I didn't know. So these neighborhoods have been around since probably the 50s or 60s. It's called Briarcliff Woods Beach Club. And why Beach Club? I don't know. That's just, it was
no beach there.
No beach there, but swim tennis club. There's also Leslie Beach that's not too far away from us. And evidently back in the day, something we got to get going again. But back in the day, the club members used to have battle of the beach clubs, and they would play sort of like an alta match against one another.
Kind of an inter-club kind of scenario?
Yeah.
We talked about that a few years ago when I was at TPC. That was always something, and maybe that's just one of those things that's always on the table and never happens, where all the clubs go, well, all right, we're country clubs. We should be able to do our own thing without these little neighborhoods, and we should be able to do kind of a higher level event, and we'll do the and then it just kind of, as far as I can tell, never really happens.
Yeah, well, you get as egotistical as us tennis pros are, we all get in a room, nobody like takes responsibility for wanting to run with something like that.
That's true. Nobody wants to work, but everyone
it's always
wants
like we want to have it. The idea's on the table, but nobody runs with it. The same happened for us. We so at Druid Hills, our centennial was Druid Hills Golf Club was founded in 1912, and so was Ansley Golf Club. Funny enough, founded in 1912. So in 2012. we had a huge centennial event with both clubs. It was really awesome. We had like we're talking about, big inter-club tennis event, tennis match, Ansley versus Druid Hills. We had a golf tournament the same way. We had a big concert. It was really fun. And we kind of, we got the big trophy, and the idea was that the winner got the trophy. And then we were going to like do it every couple years. We were going to, do it again and again and again. And of course, that was the only time we ever did it. We did it. So,
yeah, I remember that, like you said, the tennis pro thing, where we all get in the same room and we think we're going to save the world from whatever ails tennis.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things Bobby and I talk about a lot, because we try to, with the Gotennis project, we try to not end up with those same mistakes. We try to say, okay, we can do this. We can help in these ways. Let's ask what people want. Let's really listen to what's going on. And one of the things we're doing in the podcast is talking to somebody like you to say, all right, what do you do? Why do you do it? Where do you do it? How can we help? As opposed to this whole zero-sum game. All the tennis pros are like, nope, this is my client, and there's what's mine is mine, and yours is yours, and don't try to help me because I'm never going to help you, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to change that culture a bit. And I like hearing with the emails we've sent back and forth, you haven't answered yes, I love the culture change that you guys are talking about, but you seem like the kind of guy that would fit in well with what we're looking at trying to do.
Well, it's just realizing that there's a slice of pie for everybody, and it's funny you were talking about this, because it's something I've noticed, being in the private club world for so long. Everybody worked for the same company, right? So similar to your experience at TPC, you're on the same team, if you will, and there was always little rivalries among pros of, I taught Jenny for years and now she's taking lessons from you. And there's all that kind of, a little bit of jealousy going on. But I walk into these neighborhoods, and the first thing I wanted to do in my company, I said, I don't want to be, and not that there's anything wrong with management companies that do what they do, the UTAs, the Agapes that go in and they say, we're the management company for this facility. You can only do stuff from our pros or whatever. Nothing wrong with that, but I didn't want to do that. I said, look, I want to go in. I already know these neighborhoods have pros that the members like. They're coming in, and I actually got offered that at the beach club. They said, would you want to be our pro, like our club pro? I mean, I didn't want to do that. What I want to do is come in and run some programs and fill voids without stepping on anybody else's toes. So a lot of what I do is run the programs, but also stay out of everybody else's way, And that goes for the pros that are already coaching there and the members that want to play. I don't want to come in and all of a sudden I'm running this big academy 3 days a week and I'm taking up all the courts for 3 hours at a time. So I try to be very calculated in what we do. And then what's been interesting over the past year or so, first few times I come in, you got a pro over there teaching some ladies, another pro teaching an advanced junior, and I walk in with my red and orange balls and my red nets, and I'm putting them out, and all my throwdown lines everywhere as I'm running like little kids classes. And they're kind of all looking at me like, who is this guy? What's this going on? And I already had a agreement with the club to do this, right? But they didn't know that. So all of a sudden this guy shows up. And then there's that, like you said, there's that, like, you kind of don't make eye contact for a while, but you're kind of peeking over, like, what drill's he doing? What drill's she doing? Hey, how's it going? And over the course of a year, really, we figured out we're not in competition with one another. The people you coach are not the people I coach nor want to coach, and I'm not trying to take your student. You're not trying to take my student. We're here, and we kind of really work kind of interdependently of one another, if that makes sense. And in a way have a great working relationship where we cover all the needs of that club. Because while I'm coaching a bunch of middle school kids, there's a pro over there coaching, a ladies sea alpha team. I don't want to coach a ladies sea alpha team. She does it perfect. I want to coach the middle school kids. And
we want to see more of that. We want to see that where also, are you not talking to the middle school kids' parents and saying, hey, if you want to consider playing some tennis, you need to call, the Coach Joe over there And then Coach Joe doing the same thing. Hey, do your kids play? You need to call Ben. He's fantastic. Like, to be able to actually not just get along, but also promote one another and help actually, you know what, let's bring in more people to the sport rather than just having that whole, no, don't look over there, pretend there's no other coach.
Yeah.
You know, pretend there's no other option but me.
Yeah, and competition is good. I think competition is healthy. You know, there's things I used to do that I've changed, or things I would never do that I now do. You know, like I just it's fine. You know.
Yeah, and that's
we tapped around a little bit, Ben.
Go ahead, Bob.
This is a tough part about being on the road. Ben, you were the good segue into your role with the GPTA, because I always tell Sean that you were the last relevant leader of the GPTA when they were still trying to do something more than just have lunch together. Where did you, when you took over that role, where did you want to take it, and what did you envision the GPTA could become?
Yeah, that's funny you say that. You know, and I've changed my tune on that. I mean, when I first started my career, I was thinking I was shooting for the moon, right? I mean, I was going to be the, you know, general manager at the biggest private club in the country, you know, or the tennis director at the biggest club in the country, you know, and you know, and then so when I was on the board at GPTA with GPTA, you know, we did a lot of cool things, and but you know, we lost our way. We kind of forgot who we were and what we were about, you know. And we were talking about, I mean, we got on the track of like, we were going to do certification, you know, because, you know, USPTA had their certification, PTR had theirs, but then GPTA could come in with, you know, Alta has a whole different environment, and we could have the Alta certified pro via GPTA. I mean, we had for a while, we had Kia, we had like corporate sponsors. I mean, it was, you know, and we had, who was it? Snapple was a sponsor one year. We had a big event with Snapple. Snapple owned Dr. Pepper, or Dr. Pepper owned Snapple. I forget which one, you know, who owns who, but they were a big sponsor one. And we did some huge things. We brought in some huge names. But you know, you kind of get too big for your britches, you know, and you realize that, you know what, having a bunch of guys that meet at, you know, the Rusty Nail and have beers and talk about how to give a good lesson is fine. You know, and we learn from that, you know, and we realize we're all on the same team. We're all kind of, you know, we're not necessarily all in the, you know, in the same boat, but we're definitely in the same ocean, you know, and so trying to, you know, to steer our ships in the same direction. But is that what kind of you're asking? I mean,
because it's a lot of the kind of the void that we're trying to create is be that first phone call for the Atlanta tennis player. And I always felt like the GPTA, like I said, under your stewardship, it was getting close to that. They were doing events. They were making it a little bit bigger, because you always hear the argument from the guys, well, we're not promoting the pros enough. And I think there's relevance to that, but I also think, like you said, a lot of times they overshot the value or wanted to place the value of themselves a little too high when you have to do an introduction and you have to gain people's trust. And after you left and the leadership wasn't the same, it kind of become more of and I can't even say networking, because I think more than anything, the independent pros will show up and some of the content, but it's struggled since you've been gone.
Yeah, I know they've really struggled. And I you know, there's probably a lot of reasons for that. But
you have plenty of time, Ben. So if you'd like to start at reason number 1 and work your way down.
Work your way down. All right.
I'm very curious. Well, we talk about the GPTA a lot, and we talk about what they could do. And I love that you said, "Hey, we got a little maybe too big for our britches." Back in the day, with, you know, taking your original mindset of I'm the greatest tennis pro ever, like, as we all come in and we think we have to humble ourselves and realize how good we're not and how much we have to learn and how things actually work. And so I am curious. You say, okay, well, when I was there, we had these great ideas. We did some cool things, and then maybe hit a wall in certain places as to which direction we were going. But if we could, if Bobby and Sean and Ben were to be the GPTA, or maybe just give advice and say, okay, here are 3 things that we really would either love to see the GPTA do, or here's how you can improve what you're doing. Do you have? I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't. This is kind of something that just comes up. Say, do you have 2 or 3 things that you'd say, yes, here's where I'd go. I'm GPTA president again.
I could sort of take credit for the lunch and learn idea. That was sort of my idea. We had, we're getting to a time where when I first started joining the GPTA, we had a lot of evening events. And then, if you're a pro, you make a lot of money from the hours of, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., right? During the week.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because we did have a lot of people come, but as it got busier, and what really happened was the market changed. And so a lot of people think about obviously what happened in 2008, a lot of clubs struggled. And then what happened on the back end of that was that we started having more dual income families, right? And so now I know it's just at Druid Hills, and it's something we talked about all the time, from staff level, tennis committee level, all the way up to the board. It was, traditional clubs, you would have, the stay-at-home moms that played in the mornings, the kids played after school, the men played at night. Everybody's happy, right? Everybody has their spot. Now, when mom decides she wants to work, now you've got now you've got dual income families. You got husband and wife, or spouse, right? So 2 people that are now fighting for the same court time because they both have jobs. They both have responsibilities in a work life. And so they're not available till the evening. So now it's not just the men's time from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. The women need that time as well because they've also been at work all day. And so now what that does for us as coaches, not only does that, it changed the market because so now your courts are packed at night because you've got, 2 genders that are vying for that same time slot. And you need more pros because now you got at Druid Hills, in my time at Druid Hills in 14 years, we went from 2 women's Sunday Alta teams to 10. And you think about how
that's a big difference.
And you talk about wanting to get a court on a Tuesday night, and you got 5 men's Alta teams and 10 women's Alta teams. That's a lot of courts, and that's a lot of coaches,
And we see the kids staying at the daycares longer because both parents work till 6. They pick the kid up at 6. Hey, can my kid have a lesson 6:30 or so, something like that? No, they can't. You can't even get a lesson then. Right. Everybody wants that time frame. So that probably doesn't work for a GPTA evening event.
Yeah, exactly. So let's bring it back to full circle GPTA. So seeing that, we changed it to lunch and learns. And so the idea was, hey, you can come. Let's give the guys a good lunch. Let's give the pros a nice lunch. Have a keynote speaker, or maybe there's a speaker. Some events we do like a round table kind of thing. And then you're out of there by 2 o'clock, right? And that worked really, really well. And we tried to sort of move it around the city, so it wasn't always at Dunwoody Country Club or somewhere like that, as you kind of moved around a bit. We did a pretty good job of that. But I think a lot of times with these organizations, it's volunteer based, right? We're not USPTA. And I said this many times in our board meetings, running the organization, both as the president and after I was finished, was USPTA has a paid staff. PTR has a paid staff. USTA has a paid staff. Alta has a paid staff. We don't have anybody. We paid someone to run the website, but there's no paid people to do this. We're doing that. You're on mute.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I try to stay muted so I don't jump in too much because I can't help myself sometimes. But I was like, how long ago was it that you had somebody paid to build that website? Because they certainly haven't paid anybody recently.
Yeah, exactly. And well, they don't have the funds to, and so it's just, and that's kind of where he drew back to let's, we got too big for our britches. Let's realize who we are. We just couldn't keep it going. You can't go with that. And that's one thing I've learned. There's one thing I've learned in my career is you can't go full steam forever, right? And you're gonna burn out at some point. And that's what happened with GPTA. Just a lot of people that were super invested. And we were going full force, full head of steam, and doing lots of great things and building the organization. I mean, we got to like 250 members at one time, which was much more than I ever had. And then it just burned out because a lot of us we moved on. We had family lives. We had our kids started growing up. We wanted to do different things with our careers, and then the second thing is there wasn't a pipeline. We didn't do a good job of having a pipeline there. This is something everyone talks about with tennis pros, is the pipeline of who's the next person coming up that's gonna take over the next directorship or next head pro or next president of GPTA, whatever it might be.
Well, if you've only got 80 members, it doesn't have the same pool from if you got 250, you've got maybe 1% that might be interested, and that gives you a couple of members, a couple of board members. But at 80, 1% doesn't get you anybody.
Right.
Gets you less than one board member. Bobby and I talk about that 1% thing. I'm like, just assume you're going to get 1% of whatever you're trying to do. So if you can't get at least 100 of something, you got less than one.
You can't do it. No.
That's fun. And that kind of goes to my favorite question. And I know I'll jump back to Bobby because I know he's not talking as much as we normally would on a talk like this because he's on the road and the sound isn't great. But I want to go to my king of tennis question, and I want to make it not about the GPTA. I've already tried to push Ben about give me advice for the GPTA, and he did a pretty good job of skirting having to answer that question. But Bobby, you got anything else for Ben before I ask him our king of tennis question?
No, ask away.
Okay. So aside, and you can go full on GPTA on this one if you want to. I love the fact that you're doing a unique facility management company. I think a lot of coaches out there, I did the same thing. I'm gonna come out. I'm just gonna run a little club or run neighborhoods, and I think Gwinnett Tennis does something similar. Chase Hodges had a thing doing that for a while. So everybody thinks they can run a facility, but it sounds like you're not just, hey, I'm the tennis guy. You get a chance to run more, like the extracurricular side. Let's do real full-on programming for kids so that your uniqueness is there. And back to the name Bull Shark, where I really like that. But if we were
so first off, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, please.
This is a program provider company, a neighborhood partnership company. I'm not a facility manager. I'm not going to come in and tell you how to manage your clay courts or be responsible for changing the lights. We want to go in, run the programs, right, and then let somebody else handle that other stuff.
I like that specific difference. That's a much better way to do it. Yeah. I don't want to be changing light bulbs. Bob, I think Bobby's over there changing light bulbs at Windermere.
Not that I'm above changing light bulbs. I just,
How many tennis pros does
I think it's a great.
Yeah.
It's a great distinction, and I think it's very, to establish yourself as that from day one is fantastic. Making me envious. Like, oh, I probably should have did that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to like let's let everybody have a slice of the pie, right? If I'm going to be the facility manager for a swim tennis club, I'm not going to want, and I'm the one that's responsible for making sure the lights are changed. I'm the one responsible for the clay court maintenance. I'm responsible for blowing the hard courts off every day. I'm responsible for changing the trash out. Am I going to want another pro coming in, just walking up with their basket, rolling on the court, making money after I've spent all this time getting the facility ready? I'm gonna want a slice of that, right? I'm gonna want a cut of that, right? And then that kind of gets ugly.
Then you end up managing people.
Yeah.
We've all managed between the three of us. We've all managed other tennis pros, and then that's unique.
I remember I first got to Druid Hills. One thing I did was we had this lady, and we like most clubs do, we did a lottery system, right? So we had, do your lottery, and whatever number you get, that's what number pick you get for your clinic time, for your alpha team. Well, she didn't get the time she wanted, right? So she sends me an email that she's hired this pro to come in and teach at the time that she wanted the lesson, right? And I had to explain to her why that wasn't going to happen. And so, but that was the rule at Druid Hills, right? in most private clubs, you can't just hire. We provide it. You join the club. We have a staff at your disposal, right? Which can get dirty as
Within
well,
reason.
right? Yeah, we have the help available for you, right? And so, and it's different. In a swim tennis club, there's no staff. As I say a lot of times too, because we have some, let's just say a few entitled people and delve into the whole, conversation of millennials and that sort of thing. And, people who literally will not change the trash out, and the deal at the beach club has always been, it's a members club. The motto for us is the members are the staff, right? Which means if you are the member at the pool that's shoving your beer can down in the trash can, because it's so full, like that should be a hint to pull the trash and go take the trash out, right? You ordered 5 pizzas for you and your family. Don't leave the pizza boxes sitting out on the table. There's no bus boy here. Okay. You are the bus boy. And so to that end, member wants to bring in their own pro. I'm fine with that, but it's a different environment. It's a different type of club.
Yeah. We get people a lot say, well, can you do the program? Wouldn't it be great? We live in Chateau Alon. We live relatively near there. Hey, I got a friend in Chateau Alon. Can we just go over there and you can coach it? I said, I can't. I said, they have a program installed. They have a tennis coach that works there. It is his job to run tennis there. And so I don't go in and it's not an open system. TBC, right. Sugarloaf, Druid Hills, those private clubs, it's less of an open. There's no openness to it. It is, here are your coaches, you're welcome, right? And there you go. But with the neighborhoods, that's good. It's more of an open scenario where we talk to our HOA here as well. We say the same thing. Look, this is really what we focus on. We're going to teach some tennis lessons. We focus mostly with the kids, but we don't want an exclusive, because an exclusive comes with strings, and that's not where we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing for me was quality of life, man. I mean, one of the reasons I got out of the club business was quality of life, right? I mean, I have 2 young kids,
60 to 80 hours a week.
I'm heavily involved in their lives, and so if I don't want to coach, I don't coach, I mean, if I say, hey, this week we're going out of town, I don't do a program that week, and it's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that a lot. So I'm glad you interrupted. So that
all right, we got to get to this king of tennis question here.
Yeah, so king of tennis. It's one of my favorite questions because you can take it any way you want. And I kind of like to do it toward the end, because later after this, we're going to ask, what's Bull Shark doing right now? What's next for you? And ask for something kind of, what do you want? How can we help you promote what you're doing? But before that, if you're made king of tennis, whether it's global, we've had all kinds of different answers, from a global change to only in Atlanta to only Alta. Is there something you would change about tennis anywhere if you could just snap your fingers and make a difference?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I've thought a lot about this, since we've been emailing.
That's why I love it. It's a great question.
It's a loaded question.
Oh yeah.
And so, I think for me, it would be more like, why do we have to, kind of on the same subject, right? If there's something really good, let's all gravitate to it, stick with it, and recognize it's a great product and use it, right? And we have so many different organizations, right? Why are there so many, and when I say this, I'm not saying we unify them, right? There's been talk for years about, unifying USPTA and PTR. I don't know that that's the best thing, but definitely recognize if someone has something, it's okay, right? The elephant in the room here is UTR, right? UTR is a great product. It's awesome. A lot of my kids that I work with, they play UTR tournaments, right? Now, if I was king of tennis and I could control UTR, I would have UTR have a level for the orange ball and green ball space. I think that's something we've lost I think we came out. I was a huge advocate of Quick Start. I was one of the first early adopters. I did have me and Turhan Burnett had the first two 10 under orange ball USTA teams in Atlanta. There was me and him. Yeah, he had a team at Capital City. I had a team at Druid Hills. We played each other like 6 times. That was the league. Was the two of us. But we believed in it. We believed in orange ball tennis. We thought it was great. It helped kids develop match play skills from early on. And so, I not to get into arguments over whether your 8-year-old should play yellow ball or orange ball, but we do need to have, and we did for a while, like that, like 2008 to 2012, 13, we had it really good where we had a lot of high quality orange ball and green ball events, and we've lost that. And I think UTR is great because the rating system is good. You don't have to argue the algorithms and how accurate they are, but it works. The kids get into it. They run great events. And the thing in our area that I like about UTR is they're 4-hour tournaments, So I've got kids that can play multi-sports. Let's say they play soccer, right? If their soccer game is on Saturday, well, they can play a Sunday UTR tournament, They don't have to tie up 3 days, a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, waiting around, when are you going to play, right? I play at 8 a.m., but if I lose, I play at 12. If I win, I play at 4. Well, that doesn't help me, So I think we UTR has got a good thing going, and go on. So then let's just use it. Let's all use it, right? And then I would have them say, okay, we're going to come out maybe like, maybe it's like the sub-zero levels, right? So you have UTR, as we know, starts at 0. So maybe, and it's all yellow ball. So maybe you go, okay, below that, I don't know, just throw a number out there. Maybe -3 is orange ball. And as you get closer to 0, okay, like -1 is like green ball. Okay. So then if you bump over rating to 0 into positive numbers, now you can play with yellow balls or something like that, right?
Sub-zero. I like that. I wrote that down. I'm like, Sub-zero. That's a great name.
Yeah. So
I'm calling Chase Hodges this afternoon.
He'll do it, right?
Probably.
But something like that where, we're all in look, it's great to have different organizations and everything, but we also want to have a unified approach. And I think with the rating system, UTR is something that's really solid. So why do we have to reinvent the wheel, right? Why do we have to and that's something that's always been a problem with our industry is like, if you've got something, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to try to make my own thing better. Like, why? You already have it. Just use it. Like, who cares, right? Just recognize what it is and market it and promote it. And tennis is tennis, man. The more we get kids on the court hitting balls, the better we're all going to be,
I think we can all agree on that.
So I don't.
Well, that sounds like an entirely different conversation. That there seems to be a little dissatisfaction with the top of the hierarchy in our industry. I don't know. That might have been what I heard. That might have been my biased interpretation. I don't know.
Well, we'll get Javier Palenque to talk to us next time. Find out. The ultimate USTA hater, right?
Yeah. USTA had an opportunity, right? UTR is sitting right there. You want to redo your tournament structure, right?
Got to modernize.
Why do we have to reinvent the wheel? Why don't we just, hey, UTR, let's partner, man. Let's do it.
Right? And I think that's the
tennis pro mentality. They've done it on so many different levels.
Sorry, what's that, Bobby?
They've done it on so many different levels. And I'll go back to what Ben said earlier about, somebody coming into Druid Hills to give a lesson. To me, the not only the failing, I understand what Ben's coming from. To me, the tragedy is that pro thought it was okay. So there's a terrible failing within the hierarchy in the industry in education from the get-go. And that lack of cohesiveness hurts us on every level as far as we don't have the panache of somebody who is a PGA pro that we're always explaining ourselves. We're having to sacrifice and make concessions because we just don't carry that same clout. And we have to put up with, as Ben said, so many things that, I had a good friend who used to say, look, I don't mind getting shot from the back from the front because I expect it. But if I'm getting shot from the back, that's a problem. And that to me has always been the problem in the industry. And those are kind of the things that is driving our motivation to try to change things a little bit.
Well, I'll give you a good example. So I have served on many USTA committees, both locally and nationally. Currently, I'm on a task force, the ADM task force, and it's a national task force, bunch of coaches around the country, and for the American development model, right? And so I did this exercise with them, and I said, because now I'm doing multi-sport, so I research other sports, and I'm certified in other sports as a coach. So I said, all right, let's think about this. Like, what is USTA? Like, USTA is trying to define themselves. So, and I'll ask you guys this: I give you the word USTA. Give me elevator. What is USTA?
Bobby, go.
U.S. Open.
Okay, let me say, what does USTA do?
Actually do or supposed to do?
No. Just what do they do? Just what do you think? All right. What do they do? One liner. What do they provide? What do they provide?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. So
I'd say they run tournaments and leagues and claim to grow the sport.
Thanks, Sean. That's exactly. I wasn't trying to lead you, but that's exactly what I said. I said what?
Yeah.
So I said this. All right. USA Baseball. Does USA Baseball run leagues and tournaments?
I don't know baseball.
They have USA Baseball teams. So, they have high-level teams, but there's a ton of organizations around the country that run baseball tournaments and baseball leagues. USA Baseball is not going to run your local park recreational baseball league. USA Baseball is the governing body of baseball. They kind of give guidelines on how baseball should be coached and organized. USA Basketball, same thing. USA Soccer, same thing. But when I say USTA, you guys in the task force, same thing, automatically think leagues and tournaments. They don't think governing body of our sport. So why doesn't USTA be the governing body of our sport? Just give guidelines. You can provide programs. You can provide products like round robins or red ball team challenges, but don't feel like you have to run leagues and tournaments.
So if I bring it back to King of Tennis, do you tell USTA to stop running local leagues and tournaments?
I don't think so. I mean, my point is they get too much in the weeds of leagues and tournaments. And so we're leagues and tournaments. And so when someone else has a good league or a good tournament, then they have to go reinvent the wheel, right? And that's probably where WTN comes in. It's like, well, UTR, we'll do our own thing and it'll be better. Okay. And that's the answer. And that's the answer a lot of times, rather than just recognizing that someone has something really good and how can I partner and be more a part of that?
That's where we all respect Alta. They do one thing. This is what we do. We do leagues. Like, stick with that. We do leagues. We also only do leagues in Atlanta. It's like, get really good at that one thing and do it, right?
Oh, I mean, in Atlanta, we're a little loose with what Atlanta is, right? I mean, it's north of Macon, south of Chattanooga. I mean, so it's kind of
it's a big area.
It's the urban sprawl of Atlanta, right?
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And I've got to go back before I forget. You mentioned something, and you mentioned the PGA Pro that Bobby mentioned. The PGA coach is the ultimate. You go and you pay your $150 an hour for your golf lesson, right? Is there a guy that will come to your local golf course with a few golf clubs in his trunk, like the tennis coach, the uncertified tennis coach, that can come up and charge $25 an hour for a lesson? Is there a version of that in golf, or like is there a trunk golf coach that people are like, oh no, I got the $25 guy and I'm really happy with it? But does that even exist?
First of all, Sean, I don't know where you're living, but they're not charging $25 an hour. They're charging sometimes more than we are. I've seen baseball hitting coaches that are charging $100 and $120 an hour. I've seen tennis coaches, I've coached next to them and heard the lady say, how much do I owe you? And he says, oh, it's $100. And I'm like, $100 for that? I mean,
Wow.
so
I guess I look over and I still see in my mind. I'm like, okay, it's the $25 an hour guy,
yeah.
right? And I'm looking. We're the $100 an hour people because we're certified and we do our continuing education, and that's another thing probably for another time because I got about 6 minutes left. But that I want to talk to you because one of the ways I contacted you recently was reading your article in 2019 Net News about why going to a certified pro. And that's one of the things I want to follow up with you at some point and say, hey, can we update that? I'd love to find out if you want to rewrite it or you like how that article is. And let's promote that again because we want to promote that idea, especially if the uncertified coaches are teaching potentially bad tennis lessons and they're charging as much or more as we are. We need to make sure that's known. That somebody needs to know that. But yeah, I definitely want to know kind of what's that sales pitch on. Okay, we're certified. I don't think the PGA Golf Pro has a problem pointing out why he's better than the guy who is uncertified. Like he doesn't have his PGA card. You just don't take lessons from anybody who doesn't have that. And maybe it's just an industry culture difference.
Yeah, I think too. Like, why are you certified? Like, why are you? I mean, to me, I've been a USTA coach developer, and I've been a PTR clinician. I'm now a USPTA coach developer. And when we work with these coaches that are getting certified, it is kind of sad. I mean, it's like you get two answers, like, well, my boss made me do it, or I'm doing it for the insurance purposes, right? I'm doing it that you get, you become a USPTA pro, I get liability insurance. Like, do it for the education. Like, you should want to be a knowledgeable coach in your area, in your field, right? In your sport. And if you are that takes care of itself, right? I mean, I don't think, and this is where we got on the wrong foot with with our industry probably, is you go, hey, I'm USPTA certified. Here's my badge. You should take from only certified pros. Like, well, what if I don't want to take from certified pro? Then what if I want to take from this, Billy somewhere, I do think the mindset needs to change to, I see this sometimes in baseball as well, is like, and it used to drive me nuts in tennis when I would say, oh, my son takes from Billy Joe. He played at Georgia. Or, oh, my coach, or my kid's coach is Maria. She was top 50 in the world. Okay. You said
objection,
zero
relevance.
Yeah, I mean, you said zero about her.
It has nothing to do with coaching.
About their coaching.
Yeah.
And so, sort of part of as a coach developer, like in these workshops that we run, one of the first things we ask the coaches, they're getting certified, is we ask them, think about it's an exercise where think about your best coach that you've ever had, your favorite coach of all time, any sport, and let's shoot out some things that they taught you, some things that come to mind when you think about this coach that you really enjoyed as a player yourself. And it's all built around, 10% of the time, you'll have the one dude that talks about his coach who taught him an amazing American twist serve, right? But most people talk about they like their coach because he was a nice guy, he was loyal, he taught me how to be a good teammate, he showed me how to have good sportsmanship, he was supportive when I felt angry, or whatever it is. It's all usually what comes out is the soft skills, we call them, right? The soft skills of like
more than tennis,
right? Character traits and being a good person and trying hard and helping me through tough times and those sorts of things. Versus he taught me an awesome, wicked topspin forehand or whatever, right? But we sort of, I guess, lose that where like, we talk about character and how important that is. We talk about building multi-sport athletes, but then what's the first thing we do as tennis coaches? We get into a tennis conference and we start talking about, oh, I got this. We don't talk about, hey, I really helped Mary yesterday. She was really feeling bad. She had a tough day at school, but she came out and she rallied through. And when I was able to get her back on the right track, and we had a great tennis lesson. we don't talk about that. We talk about like what our kids are ranked, Hey, what's Sean, I got like 10 kids that are like, that are like 6 UTRs. And we used to talk about the rankings, we used to talk about, I got this kid who's 2 in Georgia, like we always talk about, rather than just,
instead of me saying, hey, by the way, little Johnny he made contact for the first time yesterday.
Right. Yeah. Nope. Nobody said that. Right.
I get to say it every week. It's fantastic. But I got a hard stop coming up, and I need to ask you if there's anything we can do for you. So, Bull Shark Sports, do you have anything coming up? Do you have, what helps you in your industry if the podcast and Gotennis specifically, because we're going to do a calendar of events. We're going to be a full event management system for the Atlanta area, which is bigger than just Atlanta, as we admit.
Yeah,
and we're counting on that's part of what we're counting on.
Right.
But what do you have coming up? What do you need? What's good for you in the Atlanta area? If we can be a friend to Ben Hestley, what would that look like?
Yeah, just a resource, right? That's all I need. Just a good resource, and I think kind of circle back to GPTA, just a bunch of a networking opportunity to sit down and talk and conversate and learn from each other. My mindset on tennis is much different than it was several years ago. I'm not out there trying to make the next US Open champion. I'm not even trying to make a tournament player. I'm just trying to use tennis as a vehicle to create athletes. And I personally feel that the sport of tennis teaches so many athletic skills that you can transfer to any sport you want to play. And I've experienced that in my career. I haven't had many players going to play college tennis, but I've had a lot of players going to be successful in other sports through playing tennis. And that's kind of where I came to this philosophy. Summer camps coming up and things like that, but really just, putting the name out there. People continue to look at the website. I'm still building this company, much like you guys. I'm trying to write blogs. I'm trying to post videos. I'm not that good at it, but I'm trying, and eventually we'll figure something out. There's plans for down the road to have our own facility. I would love to have a facility, kind of, I know we only have a few minutes, but take the batting cage approach to tennis, right? Like, why can't we come in and use ball machines, hit on the ball machine or serve, like if you work on somebody's serve for a 20-minute private, do you really need a full tennis court? Or just like a cage, you can work on their serve or work on their forehand or whatever. So I'm seeing that on the baseball side, and my wheels are turning. Like, how can we make a D-bat, if you're familiar with D-bat? It's a national kind of batting cage company, but how can we take that to tennis?
I think that's a great idea, and we'll add that. So we got to talk about the facility, because you said that, and I just had 7 ideas pop into my head too. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about quite a few other things in at length, I'm sure. But I gotta run. I know Bobby sounds like he just landed where he's going, and I really appreciate your time, Ben, because we're gonna get you involved. We're gonna get involved with what you do. We've talked facility as well. We've talked trying to figure out how to write blogs and how to generate content and really how to make things better. As I've been saying recently, make Atlanta tennis even better than it already is. And I think we can do that together.
Absolutely. Well,
Ben, I apologize. I was on the road, but I feel good in the fact that after having you speak, I said how important it was to have you on the podcast. So thank you for being you, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Yeah.